Yes, the smooth breakfast on Smooth 98.1. Love music, love life. It's 31 minutes past 7 a.m. on a Monday. Yes, a brand new week. And we get to dive into the world of the big stories, headlines, and everything in between coming out of the national dailies. This is Freshly Pressed. Welcome to the first installment for this new week. Great to have you join us as you always do. It's an interactive session. So, you know what that means. The stories are lined up, analysis will be coming your way. And where you get to play a part is you get to share your thoughts with us, your messages, your feelings on the stories in question, and you get to do that on WhatsApp. The number is 0809 0809 Also join us on YouTube. We're streaming live at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Smooth 981 FM Lagos. You can leave your comments in the chat box there. And please do make your messages as easy as possible to read, short as possible, concise. Punctuation, very, very key. Help me to help myself. And also stick to the subject matter of the day. Yes, very key as well. All right, joining me for analysis this morning. It's a Monday, so you already know Mr. C and AB Bozimo are in the building. Very good morning to you, AB.
Good morning, Sir Ayo. Good morning, Mr. C, and good morning to all of the wonderful listeners out there. This is a Monday that has promise. Let's realize the promise across the week.
Amen. Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, AB. Good morning, Lagos. Good morning, virtual listeners. Let's get ready for a fruitful, rewarding, and profitable week ahead.
Yes, indeed. Let's get ready for a rewarding, fruitful, positive week. But freshly pressed wise, all I can say is let's get ready to rumble. And we begin our journey in the Punch newspaper, Mr. C. I'm bringing this one right to your doorstep. Where President Bola Tinubu has described terrorism, insurgency, banditry, and separatist movements as grave existential threats to Nigeria's unity, warning that they must no longer be seen as minor disturbances. He therefore ordered the Nigerian armed forces and security agencies to decisively confront terrorists, bandits, insurgents, and separatist agitators threatening the nation's unity and peace. Now, looking at what the president has said here, that these issues must no longer be seen as minor disturbances. As far as I know, the people have seen them as major disturbances for quite a while now. Is it that the government has not seen them as major? Bear in mind what was said, or am I mixing things up?
No, you're not. So finally, we begin to get some sort of admission from the authorities with regards to how they've handled the issues of non-state terrorist actors and how they plague various parts of the country. Now, it's deeply concerning that the president is now saying in year 3 of his tenure that they should no longer be seen as minor disturbances. And he describes terrorism, insurgency, banditry, and separatist movements as grave existential threats to Nigeria's unity. He's correct. But the greatest threat to Nigeria's unity remains the political class. Clearly underlined must be clearly understood. All of these are symptoms of the same disease, a very poor, selfish, incompetent, and wicked political class at all levels. Now, he's now promising on the Army Day that the Army will continue to be supported and they now have clear authority to go after these threats and deal with them decisively. Now, that is brave, strong talk. But beyond the talk, certain things have to be in play. You have to have enhanced intelligence, gathering networks, enhanced intelligence capabilities. How is that proposed to be enhanced? What is the plan? Two, you need superior equipment. We're tired here on Freshly Pressed, and I'm sure hundreds or thousands or even millions of people who've been displaced and have lost loved ones are tired of seeing over 200, 400, 600 guys racing to a location on motorbikes, kill, maim, rape, sexually assault, and abduct people consistently. So you need to increase the funding for the army and all the troops involved. I saw a very disturbing video 3 or 4 days ago on social media. It showed non-state terrorist actors with kidnapped soldiers of the Nigerian army. And I looked at the faces of the Nigerian soldiers and I felt pity, I felt sorry for them. So the question now is, where do we go from here? Yes, this is a lot of strong and brave talk. But like we'll see in another story, beyond the brave talk, what is the actual plan? Because when we see other states deal with terrorist actors, we see clear action. Hamas has been so decimated, they can't constitute a nuisance anytime soon. Same thing with Hezbollah. You can disagree with the reasons, that's fine, that's a completely different conversation. But this is a state saying we've identified threats to our existence and we've dealt with them. Here we continue to pay lip service. Now the president is saying go after them. But we all know, at least for the last 10, 15 years, that there are elements of these non-state terrorist actors embedded within the state in all levels, in all branches of government. So the president is speaking as one man. How about dislodging all these other guys? And more importantly, two things that need to be tackled for these threats to seriously be undermined have not been tackled. And what is it? Number one is justice. You cannot have a peaceful nation without justice. It is impossible. Show me a country without justice. Show me a country at peace without justice, and I'll show you a lie. Number two, the economic situation. These non-state terrorist actors are offering money to local indigents to join them. And because of intense poverty pervading the land, they are enticed by the sums of money, enticed by other promises, and they join them. No, no story or effort was made with regards to enthroning justice, accountability of the government at all levels, transparency, making sure there's a better economy. You're telling us you're going to use force. You cannot use force alone to deal with non-state terrorist actors. It simply will not work. But we're here, fingers crossed. I would like to be proved wrong on this. I'm serious. But from what I see, all this is talk going nowhere. I have not seen anything on the ground to support the talk. And more importantly, the more important issues have not even been identified, let alone is there a desire to tackle any of them.
Maybe I do have a word or two here, probably, but Mr. C said something.
Your voice is a bit low. I don't know how.
Okay, how about
Yeah,
now?
better. Now, absolutely
Okay.
much better.
Fantastic. Now, Mr. C alluded to the fact that the security agencies, military, and so on and so forth need more funding and all that. But we've seen in recent years, we usually an uptick in terms of the amounts that are voted in the direction of security. Now, is it a function of more money or the actual utilization of said money? Two different things.
This is connected with the story I'll take next. And I've said on this platform and others, there's a crisis of competence among those that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has hired to do his work. I've always stated that there is no circumstance whatsoever under which I expect the president himself to go to the battlefield and go be the face of the war against terror. That is not how it's done. However, you put people who have the competence to do so. And from what we're seeing, with the rising levels of insecurity in recent weeks and months, and the headline grabbing stories of fellow Nigerian residents being murdered in their scores, it appears that those in charge are not up to scrub. So we can have this on a day like Armed Forces, something day. We can have a grand ceremony with military parades and all that. Those do not appear to be hitting the spot where it's needed the most. Terrorists should be on the run. Rather, they actually give themselves brand new names with ID cards, like Rukawa, like this, and come around flexing, boasting that they can take on the military. That is unacceptable to me. And I know that the Nigerian military has the ability. I think there is a problem with the leadership from President Tinubu down to his army chiefs.
All right, thank you for sharing those thoughts there, AB. Just wanted to get your own perspective on that particular matter. Now, keeping the ball rolling here, and this is coming to you now, AB, and we'll step into the punch and talk about states and borrowing, because that seems to be a very constant theme that we're facing. Now, at least 10 Nigerian states collectively increased their domestic debt by 417.7 billion naira year on year, despite a significant rise in revenue allocations from the Federation Account Allocation Committee. A review of official data has actually shown now. An analysis of the Debt Management Office's quarterly report on subnational debt reveals that Rivers, Enugu, Niger, Taraba, Bauchi, Benue, Gombe, Edo, Kwara, and Nasarawa raised their combined debt stock from 884.9 billion naira in quarter one of 2024 to 1.3 trillion in quarter one of 2025. Now that represents about 47.2% year-on-year increase. Now, it raises a lot of questions about fiscal prudence and also the long-term sustainability of borrowing at the state level. Maybe just looking at those numbers, and you just want, I mean, a lot has been said about increased allocation and so on, but still the borrowing keeps on going.
Ayo, Mr. C, and our wonderful listeners, the signs are not good. This story is one of those that's so full of numbers and percentages that it is best read at everyone's leisure. I will not pursue the numbers too far. I want to stick with the general principles. Let's first of all start with this word of increased federal allocation. A lot of this debt is both domestic and international. When the currency was, what's the word? When the president rationalized the currency rates, a lot of those foreign payments ballooned because suddenly the amount, if you were supposed to pay 10 naira for $10 before, maybe now you're supposed to pay 20 naira or 30 naira. So even though you have more FAAC allocation, it suggests that you are using more of it for that. But all that to say, when you hear that 47.2% increase has happened, in almost any other context, that is a good thing. It means if you had been scoring 10%, you have crossed into 57% category. If you are scoring 50%, you're at a 97% category. Where in any of the Nigerian lives in those states is there such an improvement or increase in anything, in any sphere? The economy has many spheres. You have manufacturing, you have education, you have healthcare, you have power. What in any of those states, and listen, we're talking about the top 7 or so states. It doesn't mean that other states didn't do it, but we're focusing in this story on those states. In any of those states, has there been, we do headlines very regularly. In any of those states, has there been a report that, oh, in Rivers, in Enugu, in Niger, in Taraba, Bauchi, Benue, Gombe, Edo, Kwara, and Nasarawa, there's this magnificence that has come forth in the past few months? No, not at all. So this goes back to what I'm saying. Every state as it stands gets X amount of money, either from IGR or from FAAC. That money ostensibly is supposed to be put to the benefit of the state's inhabitants and residents. Instead, the lackluster leadership puts that money to serve itself, its own needs and desires. No, not needs, desires. Because there's no reason why a human being should have 40 SUVs following them, all tinted and blacked out with bulletproof. What are you afraid of if you are doing good governance? So they put that money to themselves. So when that money is now put to themselves and there's no other money, then they go to borrow. Because if you went to those multilateral institutions or even Nigerian domestic banks and said, you know what, I need 40 billion to replace all the SUVs in my fleet, the banks would kick you out after laughing on your head. But if you go to the banks and say, we need money to add extra so-and-so wing to our healthcare centers, responsible banks will look at the documents at face value, not because they don't know you are full of nothing, but because the documents can be defended at their own boards and they can now advance those loans to you. The same thing for the international institutions. If you go there and say, we want to get this loan to get a stock of Toyotas from Japan, they will say, get out of here. But if you go there and say, we need support for farming initiatives and support for this and that, the papers will suggest that you have a plan. Where I feel that these institutions are irresponsible is that Have they monitored what was done with the old money before you are giving somebody new money? Is there any way in any of our domestic situations where you give a person who is helping you X amount to go and buy whatever item? They come back without it and they say they want more and you just give them. No, you don't do that. So why do these institutions pretend as if they don't see the mismanagement going on? Again, go and read this story and shed your tears, but I don't see competence at the federal and now, let me say, at the state level, because these states are borrowing more money, topped by River State, I should add, the state of emergency, the state of chaos for the past few years, and nothing useful can be said to have happened. Yes, there are a few new high, projects and all that. I'm not saying nothing, but compared to these amounts, no, I'm sorry, I'm not impressed. 42% more should be massively transformational, something you can see, touch, and taste. And I'm sorry, I'm not seeing it.
Right. Okay. So very quickly, I agree with everything AB has said. And the question is this, right? All the borrowings, previous and current, how has it translated to an improvement in the lives of the ordinary Nigerians? That is the question to the political class.
Okay, and Mr. C, just to add very quickly, looking at the trajectory these states are going in, I mean, in a hypothetical situation, what would be the consequence if this level of indebtedness keeps on ballooning?
So the consequence is that they will face reduced allocations every time migration gets together to distribute money, because now the debt management office ensures that a first line straight line deduction is made from the allocations. So we've seen instances in the past where some state commissioners of finance are pulled up to those meetings and they've been told there's no allocation for the state this month because you've been taking away X amount to replace your debts. And when we put that side by side with what you should get, there's nothing left.
All right. I think, if I may add, this just actually goes back to the issue of sustainability of the state. A state that is literally surviving solely and only on FFAC is really not a viable state in anything but the letterhead of the state capital. It means it is not productive. And it makes little sense that a state will claim during politics, we have the population, but during production, you are nowhere to be seen. Let's ask ourselves some of those fundamental questions and get back to national conversations about resource control. If you are the one in control of your lithium in Nasarawa, I doubt that you'll be as wasteful as you are. If you're in control of your oil in rivers, hopefully you'll be more prudent. But right now, everybody just, as I always say, the Commissioner of Finance slithers like a snake on his belly to Abuja each month, begs for money, gets the balance, like Mr. C has said, of whatever is left after they have accounted for the borrowing, and rumbles back to the state in his tinted SUV with no value added to the society.
All right, Sunday from Surulere on WhatsApp says, this array of words from the president must be to impress the people who will still clap regardless of what he says. I dare say that insecurity is a thriving business for those who have made it their source of livelihood. This administration is simply preparing for the 2027 elections because it doesn't take 3 years to admit failure. I don't believe anything will change. No be today. All right. Ajayi Olonilowa Imagulu Jerry Sherry says, for the president to now group terrorists and separatist agitators together with his usual marching orders to the military to crush them is a panic statement that, as usual, will not solve the problem. You cannot use the same approach to deal with separatist agitators that have the fundamental right of peaceful agitation and the violence being unleashed on innocent Nigerians by terrorists daily. All right, Mr. C, let us continue this conversation. Still talking about matters within that realm, stepping into the vanguard. And Mr. Nuhu Ribadu, or Malam Nuhu Ribadu, the National Security Advisor of the NSA, has said that President Bola Tinubu's assumption of office saved Nigeria from imminent collapse. Speaking at the 50th anniversary celebration of the Nigerian Defense Academy 18th regular course in Abuja, he painted a stark picture of a country plagued by terrorism, banditry, and economic instability. However, he emphasized that significant progress has been made under the Tinubu administration. Mr. C.
Okay, thank you. So again, just like AB gave us the last story, I'm going to invite
Mr. C, your voice.
Okay, can you, is it better now?
I hope so, yes, please. Go on.
Okay, So just like the previous story, I'm going to invite the listeners to actually look for this story and read it. You can find it in the Vanguard, the online edition, on their website. Now, the NSA has suggested or clearly indicated that when this administration got into office, Nigeria was on the brink of imminent collapse, and that they have stabilized the situation. And he's thrown about some figures all over the place, saying they've neutralized 13,543 terrorists in the Northeast and eliminated 120 bandit leaders in the Northwest and North Central. Now, yes, it is true that there were a number of attacks, high-profile attacks, before this administration got in. We're talking about the Abuja train incident, the Koji attack, the Akure Catholic Church that was attacked. And yes, these were significant events. But really and truly, and I invite the listeners to chime in on this, was Nigeria truly on the brink of collapse in May 2023? Yes, we were plagued with problems, but were we truly on the brink? Now, Mr. Ribadu now suggests that we're now better off security-wise 2 years later than when they took over. I beg to disagree. Yes, I don't know where these figures are coming from, and stats are subjective. The reality on the ground is what we must always look at. Who today in Nigeria can travel from one state to another without the heart in the mouth and consistent praying to his or her creator, and upon arriving at the destination, giving thanks to the said creator. And then for every one of our listeners, everyone out there who is journeying from one state to another safely, congratulations. Now, if you've never had to deal with abductors or kidnappers in any form or manner, congratulations. If you've had to deal with them, you've paid them, and you got your loved one back, congratulations. If you didn't get your loved one back, we're truly sorry. Our hearts go out to you and your extended relatives and your loved ones. But the reality on the ground today is Nigeria is not a safer place security-wise than when we were 2 years ago. And I challenge anyone to bring facts that oppose what I just said. The reality on the ground is what it is. Look at the recent attacks in Plateau and the other side,
Benue.
And this is on the back of things have gotten better. And I've consistently said something on this program. Every time government functionaries come out to say we're on top of the situation, things are a lot better, give it max 14 days and see what happens.
Becomes another story entirely.
So I don't know what information the NSA looked at or was presented with to arrive at that opinion, but I challenge him. I encourage him, Mr. NSA, drive from Abuja to Lagos by road and then see for yourself firsthand what goes on the roads. Can he attempt that journey without his security aids?
Highly unlikely.
So it's one thing to sit down in an air-conditioned office and read out statements that are complete variance and conflict with what our perceived collective understanding of our existence is. But the truth is, you cannot continue to govern by rhetoric and propaganda. Let us start seeing actual action. Sadly, this is year 3. I'm not holding my breath because intense politicking has started.
Right. Let me see here. Okay, AB.
Just one thing. Listen, the palpable sense of dread when going by road transport has increased. That really is the bottom line. I don't care about statistics. I don't care about numbers. It is really scary now traveling from what we hear. And that is the measurement that most Nigerians operate with. If you're not afraid of terrorists, you're afraid of police. Let me tell you, it's not just terrorists. The police too have become more aggressive in some instances. They act like terroristic people, not killing, but extracting.
Babatunde Alao on WhatsApp says, what exactly is Malami Ribadu seeing that we are not seeing? Insecurity is top-notch, hunger in the land, economic collapse, high cost of living, and unemployment on the rise. He should remove his spectacles and see clearly. Gilbert Musa says, on the continuous insecurity challenge in northern Nigeria and the entire country as a whole, it is beyond the capacity of the security chiefs for now, as previous changes of security chiefs did not yield a positive result. It's time to involve security chiefs of developed nations for advice. I'm not holding my breath on that one. No, I am not. This is Adigboye Gadidiji. He says, the pulpit's credibility is compromised when it's used for political gain and banter. Politicians with deep pockets influence dictate the message, undermining the integrity of the pulpits. The sacred place has become a stage for ridicule and political jabs. Very sad to see that many clerics have become merchants of Venice. That was a good read, very good read. It's been a while though. There's a reason I took that particular message, AB, because I wanted us to step into this story in the Vanguard. It's a multi-part story really, and it talks about ADC, PDP coalitions, and so on and so forth. Now, as part of efforts to build a formidable coalition ahead of 2027 general elections, the ADC, the African Democratic Congress, has commenced moves to woo high-profile politicians from the PDP and the All Progressives Congress as well. Now, although the ADC has already taken over PDP structures in Yobe, in Gombe, Adamawa, and some other northern states, many of the prominent politicians being approached are yet to actually formally defect. Now, that is on one hand. Then, on the other hand, as regards the message that I just read from Adegboyega Adedeji, it has to do with the Thanksgiving service that a minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike, gave at a church on Sunday. He said quite a lot of things, took jabs at a lot of people and so on and so forth. Many have said that was not the time or the place to actually make those comments and say what he said. I don't know if you agree with that one, AB, or whatnot, but just try to make sense of the entire thing for us.
Okay, the headline is ADC begins takeover of PDP structures in northern states. Leaning on my background in architecture, when I think of the marvelous structural engineers I've had the privilege of working with, their structures actually have utility. I can make my clients' dreams come true, and their structures can make them stand reliably. What value are these structures that are being taken over by this ADC right now? Have they made anything worthwhile stand in those states? What are those states they call them again? They call them Yobe, please, Yobe, Gombe, and
Adamawa.
Adamawa. Are these states that you think of when you wake up and say, wow, these states have been governed marvelously over time by the PDP structures in place? I would argue that the answer is absolutely not. And so this is all part of this whole coalition building thing. Listen, I want a vibrant opposition. I want an opposition based on ideas. Thus far, I'm unable to see where the core ideas come from. Is there a lot of dissatisfaction and unhappiness, starting with myself, with the current administration? Yes, I started at this today to say there's a crisis of competence from President Bola Tinubu down. So listen, there is a lot can be done better. We are also hearing about these states owing more and nothing transferring to the citizenry. So there's a lot to be done. But the one statement in this story that I found very interesting is where some aide of Atiku talked about him giving direction. And I asked myself, direction where? Like the minister of the FCT said, Atiku that was in this party today, that party tomorrow, this party said, is that a person who seems to have any direction or is just chasing his own tail looking for anything? That said, where the FCT minister erred, in my view, was the venue at which he was making what is, in my view, patently a political speech. It is not necessary to do that. He has 1,001 of his, what are those things he does every Monday or so?
Media chats.
Press media
chats. Media
where he
chats.
can say anything. If you are going for a Thanksgiving, indeed, for how many projects you were able to deliver, give the thanks for those projects and leave. I think the location was completely out of place, and I don't know whether the clerics will look at themselves and ask themselves, because if I were in that service and I heard that, I doubt I'll go to that church ever again, because it seems to me that the cleric has lost his touch, his connection with the God I'm here to serve. That was not part of why I go to church. I go to church to get the word, to be ministered to, and also to contribute my spiritual, essence to the entire service, not to go and hear politics. There's a place and an avenue for politics. That said, when I read what the minister said, What came to my mind was, let him cook now, because, man, he dropped some facts, or at least opinions that are persuasive, but wrong place, wrong time, wrong manner. So I have issues with where he was saying what he said. But you have to read it in context and understand that he is a formidable verbal ally to have, or opponent if you're on the other side of his tongue.
All right, thank you for that, AB. Mr. C, time has absolutely flown by, but I just need you to quickly, comment on this particular one in the Daily Trust. It looks like we're going to be making some change pretty soon, as the federal government has finalized the process of selling Nigeria's 20-year-old presidential aircraft, Boeing Business Jet BBJ. And of course, this follows the acquisition of the Airbus A330 for use by President Bola Tinubu. Of course, we'll remember how that panned out last year. The investment over $400 million or thereabouts, was criticized and everything, but it looks like at least we'll make some change in terms of the sale of the aircraft.
It's not exactly certain. So, yes, it's not. So this is a 20-year-old aircraft. It was bought brand new in 2005 under the Obasanjo administration. Now, the official reason given for putting this aircraft up for sale is that it's costing a lot more to maintain. Meanwhile, they're unserviceable aircraft in the presidential fleet. Now, the presidential fleet, according to the custodians, has 6 aircraft and 6 helicopters. Now, 2 or 3 of those planes are unserviceable, but they haven't been put up for sale. The one that is serviceable but costs more to maintain has been put up for sale. Now, it's been put up for sale in Switzerland under a private arrangement. You have to contact the broker to get the price. Now, a couple of questions come up readily. One, what is the price? What is the selling price? Is the government aware that there might be Nigerians who might want to buy the aircraft? And even the selling price, is that the best price we can get? Now, how much commission is the agent getting? Because you're giving it to a third party to sell for you. So how much commission is the person getting? What is the quantum of the sales tax for selling that aircraft? So when you deduct all of these things, what is the amount coming to Nigeria? Is it worthwhile? Then final question. What will this money be deployed to? What will it be used for? Where will it be kept?
A lot of questions, as always. Never enough answers. AB, very, very quickly, please.
One sentence. Listen, we heard that there's a jet for the vice president stuck in New York. Can this one not be used in his place as a hand-me-down, quote unquote? And 2, I didn't know that we had up to 6 helicopters. And maybe they were all unserviceable, so they could not take the president to Yelwata because they said the roads were bad.
All right, let me take your messages. This is AC. AC says, for Nigeria to take a new face, the new leaders should be in their 30s, 40s, and 50s for us to evolve and be innovative as it is in a lot of developed nations. At this point, I'm not even sure if it's an age thing or a values thing, really and truly. But hey, we need to do things differently, I guess. Michael says, Mr. NSC should travel Bono roads with his full chest. Frighteningly, the level of incompetence and corruption actually cuts across all sectors. Where do we start from? The simplest form of livelihood, farming, is gradually and systematically being strangled. Tajuddin in Alimosha says, AB, you know what's up with the 42% increment in borrowing in rivers and other states. When we are ready, we'll do the needful. And concerning Ribadu, when the lamb rolls with the dog, it consumes feces. I don't know why this kind of story made it to the front page. Please tell him to drive with his family and not with his security. I mean, can he do that? Fabian Inekwe says, since March, primary school teachers and health workers have been on strike in Abuja over unpaid salaries, a place where the minister invited the president to commission infrastructure on a daily basis. It's unfortunate how money is supposedly saved on one hand and wantonly spent without accountability or punishment of the culprits. What a country. Oluwaseyi says, so the banks are business organizations, not human rights organizations. Borrowing Nigerian state governments more money despite them having nothing to show for the previous loans is great business. They know they're going to get paid without fail. So why not? This is, and finally, Barrister Danukuda says, borrowing for production is good. What is bad is borrowing for profligacy. Yes, we've actually spoken about that at different times. really and truly, we need to call it a morning. Thank you all for the messages. Apologies for the ones I could not take. Thank you for sending them regardless. Your messages mean the world to us. And thank you so very much to you, Mr. C and AB, for joining me this morning.
Thank you. The privilege and pleasure always are mine. I hope we can take something from the stories. Go read them. See what numbers are being bandied about in your name as a Nigerian citizen, and decide how we can insist on electoral reform so that whoever wins is understood to be supported by the people. All these coalition and co without electoral reform is a waste of our national time.
So let's go out. Let's learn to live with each other peaceably. Let's learn to love each other. Let's live in joy. Let's see everything. Let's have a brilliant.
Yes, let's have a brilliant week ahead. And brilliance is going to continue on the Smooth Breakfast this morning. And don't go anywhere. Keep it tuned. 8:15. It's a walk into sporting action. You're welcome.